Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Around the Table GTA. This episode is following a pretty hectic summer. Hopefully, you guys had a hectic free summer. It would be bad if you had a hectic summer, but maybe it's a little bit exciting, right? Luckily, up here where I'm from, it is still warm outside, but we could only hope that it stays warm. Thanksgiving is around the corner, at least up here in Canada, and the concept of this episode is going to be about self worth. Self worth is a big topic. I think it's something that people talk about unconsciously, but at the same time, it depends your generation. Recently, I went to a restaurant and it was interesting because we were talking with the waitress who maybe in a future episode might be a future guest. Um, and we were just talking about different concepts and it kind of just turned into like a mini discussion. Unfortunately, had to get back to work from lunch and focus on work stuff. But if it wasn't for that stuff, probably would have been at the restaurant a little bit later. I could always go back to get some more information so that we could link up. But overall, it was a great conversation and it kind of inspired this episode to come out faster. A lot of people are into things, but sometimes it takes a spark. At the same time, you kind of get distracted as well. I always talk about this in episodes, but there's so much going on, and we were even talking about like scrolling culture and the uprising in podcasts. And the thing is, I did talk about it, I believe, a couple of years ago, and it seems to have died down, but not really. I think in the mainstream, or if you talk to the average person, they'll say that it might be dying down or it was a fad, and it was mildly a fad due to the restrictions of the pandemic. You know, it's so crazy that now that word is not shadow banned. Like before, there was a time where you couldn't say pandemic, you couldn't say COVID. Just it's strange how things could be changed so quickly, but reverted back at the same time. And that just goes back to self worth, right? I've been reading some bios of some characters in the game that I played, and a lot of them lost their self worth. Like, what is your identity? Who are you? What are you to others? But also, what are you to yourself? A big concept, especially during the pandemic, was self worth. Because it's just like, if you don't have a job, if you're on government funds, what do you do with your free time? And if you're a person who cannot work, in the sense that, like, if you can't work, what do you do with all of your time? Do you feel worthless? Do you feel accomplished? Do you know what to do with your life, right? Recently, I think I already mentioned this, but it's good to hear again. You know, our family business basically fizzled out at the start of the summer, and it's changed a lot of perspective, especially for my mother. You know, she's retirement age and doesn't really want to do anything else except for have a job like that. So she's been struggling with self worth because it's just like, what do I do all day? What do I do with my free time? And I've done advice, and whether she chooses to listen, that's up to her. But some people, their identity is tied into one concept of their life, right? For example, like with my work, if I wasn't a supervisor anymore, how much more would it change my life? Would I not feel important? Like, I'm not in a place where I could be demoted from the spot. It's like you either go up or you're out. And yeah, what would I do if I got fired? Would I feel like I'm a nobody? And fortunately, I think my self worth is beyond my job, right? It's beyond the title that I hold, that in the working life people see me. Like, I could be a bigger person, but I don't think that changes who I am at the core. I saw this video of a person who won the Powerball lottery in 1999. It was like $42 million. And what the Powerball lottery is, it's a huge lottery thing in the States where you could win an absolutely crazy amount of money. And if you look at the lottery winners' statistics, those people are usually broke within 5 years. And he made some different investments and he still has a bunch of money. And it was really cool because when you look at stuff like that, where even if you talk to people, money changes people, titles change people, power changes people, but how much of your self worth is in those things, right? Speaking of worth, if you've been alive before the summer, if you listen to any hint of rap music, you saw the whole Kendrick beef Drake, uh, Kendrick Drake beef. I don't know. Today I'm a little bit off, but I'm gonna keep most of this unedited because I like doing stuff off the top of the dome. But either way, it showed how people could judge people in an instant, right? Whether you think Kendrick won or Drake won, it's pretty crazy that a lot of people are divided on it. Some people think it's a landslide on one side, and the same with the opposite faction, right? It shows how many people will support you whether you're at a win or at a loss, right? The hottest topic is P. Diddy right now, and it's distracting the world from a lot of other things that are happening, right? Like especially in Canada, the housing crisis is still crazy. Mass immigration is still crazy. You know, there's just been war around the world escalating, and things are moving in a strange way, but people are getting distracted. And that's just kind of like how the world is. But when something's thrown in your face, it could affect your attention, but it could also affect your self worth. Like for me, one of my first bosses at my current workplace, it was rumored that they got thrown under the bus and then they got fired. And within a couple of years, they became a director. And there's been a lot of great people who have either left or got fired from my place, and their roles are eclipsing their current role, right? But some people, they don't even care about all that. They care about how they're seen with their group of friends, right? Are they the cool friend? Are they the chill friend? Are they the comforting friend? Are they the mean friend? There's so many titles that we give ourselves in a society that's so caught up in either trying to hold a vision of what things should be, as well as a society that's also adapting to the way where people could express themselves even more and more, right? I was talking to a friend who wanted to start streaming, and it actually made me want to stream again, especially with the plethora of games that I'm playing and I'm planning to play again. But with priorities, I've been going to the gym and doing other things to make myself more physically fit based off my vision of myself and how I think I should look, right? My self worth. And I value fitness. I don't necessarily think that I need to be overly strong or overly skinny, but I think I need to look a certain way for me to feel comfortable with myself. And that's different for everybody. Some people have body dysmorphia, some people are body positive. Whether you think that's a coping mechanism or not, everybody views themselves in a different way. And it's really strange, especially when you talk to someone and you think that they're gorgeous and they are having problems in their life because they can't deal with the way that they look, right? It's also a strange thing with aging and even like dating, where people be judged for being bald, but people dye their hair crazy, right? Going back to 2020 pandemic talk, you couldn't access dye and makeup and everything, and it showed you like the true age of certain people, but same people would be pointing fingers at someone who was bald or had no beard or something that's out of your control, like height. The skew of self-image is wild too, because depending on your culture, depending on where you're from, depending where you grow up in the world, things are different. Some people find different things attractive. I saw this wild skit on Facebook, of all places. Not on it often, but when I want to plan things, I go there, and there's this island where the ladies there compete to be the biggest, because if you're the biggest person, then you are the most attractive person. And it's some weird island community. It's not on an island exactly, but it's a place in a hot tropical climate, and people will do like the most ridiculous things just to be a certain weight, because their self-worth is in how other people see them. All right, conquering your self-worth, your self-image, how you feel about yourself takes a lot of introspection. You need to look at yourself. You need to look at the things that you truly value, right? And you got to strip away things. I did mention Kendrick and Drake, and I know I went off topic and kept going on the main topic, but with his song that came out, he was just talking about stripping away everything, and what are you left with? And I think every once in a while, when we're reviewing things, whether you're a big planner, sometimes I'm a big planner and then I completely forget or just throw plans out to the side and wing it. You know, where do you want to be? And if you're not there, how disappointed are you going to be? Are you okay with starting over? I dealt with a crisis recently that really made me think a little bit harder on certain concepts of life, as well as how different people manage things, right? Just the whole concept of consumption of drugs or things to kind of get you out of a sober reality, and how people potentially crutch to that. And even you could go to the extent of, if you don't want to talk about things like that, there's some people who sleep their lives away because they're upset or they're depressed. But what can we do to bolster our self-image? And if we're in a bad spot, what does it take to get out of that spot? Self-worth is one of the key factors in life, I believe, to make sure that you could even stay sane, especially in a society like this. Back at the restaurant, we're talking about like endless scrolling and authenticity. Sorry, my braces make things a little bit off, or at least my back brace. And it's true, like, despite social media and a copy of a copy of a copy, or a redone skit from a past time due to people not being aware of that content, it makes things feel not real or fake. You know, a lot of scenarios that people deal with, they'll just pull out their phone like it's a movie. It's like, no, call the cops or do something. Or, you know, you don't have to record every interaction that you have. But at the same time, would our parents, our grandparents, the older generations do the same thing if they had that technology? And it's hard to say. If you've noticed the weather patterns in the States, where some places are blazing hot, and we've had hurricane warnings, where the youth are forced to live their lives anything 90s, I would say pre-95, just because there's no power and they have to keep the power off to keep everything safe. So it's a bunch of kids doing things like playing basketball instead of their heads down on their phones doing nothing, or just sharing memes. And I've caught myself too, where even Though I went to lunch with a friend and we were talking, but at the same time there was times where we're on our phones just, hey, look what I saw on my phone. Right? It's just so normal, but at the same time, like when you think about it, it's weird because you will search out things and then you'll send things to people, whether it is to like impress them or it's something that you think they'd like. So it's an act of sincerity, but at the same time, you'll just scroll through whatever to get to these things. And sometimes people direct search it just to save time, but there's still like a sea of content that you always have to kind of drive through to find something that's interesting. Like I was thinking about doing an internet break. Do I need it? I think everyone needs it. But at the same time, there's just so much coming out. And I don't really want to disconnect. I think next year, my plan, especially for self worth and growth, has already started. And I'm not going to reveal everything. But at the same time, it's always better to plan ahead. Definitely going to do things content wise differently. And I feel that I'm going to be extra ambitious on anything I try to achieve because I I think I'm at a point, and it goes back to the main point of self-worth, where I feel that I've been passed over a lot, and it's time for me to make sure that it's only a feeling, because if the opportunity is there, it has to be mine. And if it's not mine, then I know that it's true. And that's in a lot of places in life, which is kind of making me wonder how much of life recently I've been autopiloting despite having content like this, despite dealing with other scenarios, despite helping others grow and showing them alternative ways to look at crises or a scenario where they thought they were wrong or they were right, and to see that they were the root cause of the problem. My most recent compliment that I really enjoyed, which was kind of a strange one, but I've swapped to go help out in another work environment, and someone was like, wow, I can't believe you haven't been here for 3 years and you've still been able to retain all this information. And sometimes when it comes to self worth, you think something is simple or it's necessary or whatever, and other people might find that it's amazing, right? Even I worked with a person for a week before they went somewhere else, and they were talking about it's really good to document and show what you've done, right? And sometimes, whether it's how you were raised or the people that you're around, that feels like bragging. Like for me, I don't want to tell everybody every amazing thing that I did. I don't think it's necessary, but in the environment that I work in, it's 100% necessary because people will pass you over. But at the same time, when you do those things, it brings out other people who might be randomly watching in the background, and it brings you an opportunity, right? So I think things that tie self-worth is opportunity, respect, um, just being out there, kind of having different aspects of your life focused on yourself, but at the same time being comfortable at doing certain things. Like for me, I'm very comfortable with myself, but there's different things that I know that I'm not comfortable with, and I didn't even realize that I wasn't comfortable with until people who were around me um, brought it up, and I didn't notice. Right? There's different ways to grow, and to be able to grow, especially your own self worth, is to be able to take feedback positively, whether it's good or bad, and being able to tune those things. And I know in older episodes I've talked about not trying to be 100% well rounded, right? Whatever you're good at, shine at those things like a Mario Kart character. And that is also great. But having the realization of knowing that this is a problem, or this is a bad part of me. And I don't even want to say a bad part of me, but it's more of a part of you that you're not comfortable with or you're not in control of. What can you do to accept that, but at the same time work on it so that it's not there? Like, for example, for me, I do have a bad temper, and a lot of people do not notice my temper. And that's because I noticed that that was a pattern, especially in my family, where people would get really, really mad. And I didn't want to be that person, or at least that person anymore. So I've done a lot of things to keep myself calm, right? Whether I think it's completely ridiculous or it can make me mad, but I know the effects of being that person, whether it's to people that are around me or how it tarnishes my image, right? And that also goes into stereotypes and stuff like that. But to be the person that you want to be, you need not only self-control, but you have to be able to curate your self-image, right? And going back to that beef, I had friends who are on polar opposites of the Kendrick and Drake, but from the side of a Drake supporter, quoting a friend, they said that just the nature of Kendrick in the argument could be a Drake L or a Drake W, because you've seen a very aggressive side of Kendrick Lamar, and it's personal. And that's another thing with self-image and self-worth, because he had that song, a new recent one, where he feels a certain way of being that way, but he felt that it was necessary, right? And going back to just self-worth, you have to respect yourself enough. Like, and this is for all the people who have problems with other people. You will always have problems with other people. There will be people that you don't like. Not everybody's gonna love you. You're always gonna have haters, whether you do something good, whether you do something bad. Maybe it's the way you smell, maybe it's the way that you look, maybe it's the way that you smile at people, maybe it's even just how you deal with certain things. That's fine. And you have to remember that don't make someone's image of you the reality if it's not the reality that you want to have. All right, so just make sure that you work on your self-image and protect your self-worth. And remember that you could lose everything today, tomorrow, right? Like I said, the storm, some people are flooded. People don't have their house, right? Some people, their image is tied to their house or their neighborhood. An earthquake could happen. Some people, it's the stuff that they could flex, Someone might steal all of your stuff. What are you going to do? Sometimes people, it's tied to their work. Maybe you'll get fired. Maybe the workplace will get shut down. Maybe someone finally actually goes through with a threat, and it becomes a place that you're not able to work anymore. You have to have a comfortability of yourself where you're so comfortable with yourself that whatever chapter life brings you in, you'll be able to not only survive, but thrive and grow into the you that everyone needs to see, or the you that you think people need to see, or even just for you to be you and not really care about what's left in the world. Either way, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little ramble on self-worth. Make sure you are taking care of yourself. It is going to be chillier soon, but that doesn't mean you can't have a good time. Take care, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.